DJI doesn't just make drones. They also make portable solar power stations. Well, it's hard to call them a solar generator or a solar power station because these don't have solar charge controllers built directly into them. But that's one of the unique things about the DJI setup that makes it so different from everything else on the market. But they have the option to add really high wattage solar input to their larger systems, which makes them very different from everything else on the market. DJI is doing some Black Friday offerings, and so if you've been looking at their units, maybe you have some other DJI equipment and you're wanting to pair that with their power stations, I wanted to make this video for you so that way you know which unit to buy, but also warn you in case there's any issues with these units, so that way you don't spend money on a mistake. Currently, I only have the Power 500 and the Power 2000. I have separate reviews for these units in detail. But they've also got the Power 1000, which is the middle brother to these right here. And they've just launched the version 2 or the V2 of the Power 1000. So starting with the smallest unit first, this is actually a very impressive unit in terms of its inverter capability. This little tiny deal has a 1000 watt inverter. I'm not personally aware of any other power station or solar generator that is this compact and has that large of a pure sine wave inverter. This is especially convenient for portable power because it has two USB-Cs that are rated to 100 watts and then two USB-A. Part of what makes DJI so different is they don't use standard connections compared to like what other brands are doing. There's not a cigarette lighter port, there's not 5mm barrel connectors. They use their own SDC port, which is their own custom setup for both DC in and DC out. So that means if you want to charge this from solar, or if you want to use expansion batteries, or if you want to attach a Wi-Fi dongle, anything like that, it's going to go into this orange port here. So that's a beauty and a curse because it's not already built into the system, which means you have to purchase extra equipment in order to have that feature. But the added benefit is you get the versatility of being able to select what you want on your system, almost like customizing your own solar generator. So let's say I'm a photographer and I do a lot of drone footage and a lot of camera filming, then I can use this SDC port with their alternator charger and charge this while I'm driving around from location to location. With that setup, I don't have to worry about solar panels or expansion batteries because every time I get in the car, this would be charging up from the alternator very quickly. You always have the option to wall charge, and on every system, there's a slow and fast charging option. So that way you can trickle charge it or get it charged very quickly in under an hour. The DJI Power 1000, both the version 1 and the version 2, have a 1024 watt-hour battery, basically 1 kilowatt hours. That's twice as much as what's in the Power 500, and the inverter is also twice as powerful as the Power 500, because the Power 1000 has a 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter. Similar to the Power 2000, you'll have the AC outlets on that Power 1000, but it has the ability to charge from 0 to 80% in 37 minutes. That's extremely fast using the 1800 watt wall charger. But from 0 to full is still going to be under an hour, which is very impressive when you need mobile power on the go. DJI has started to focus more on overlanding and camping, not so much backup power for the home, except for with the Power 2000, because the Power 1000 V2 has a special bedding underneath the inverter that's inside of the box, where it's meant for off-roading. It's meant to absorb all of the vibration from being on the dirt road and on the highway. That way the inverter stays safe and doesn't have any problems long term. But my personal favorite of all of the DJI power stations is the Power 2000. This is truly an impressive unit for what it has, but it also has a couple of drawbacks of things that it doesn't have. So first of all, this has a 3000 watt inverter and double the battery capacity of the Power 1000 because this has 2048 watt hours. There are also expansion batteries available for the Power 2000, and they just plug into one of these two ports for expansion. So that means if you're using expansion batteries, one of these is going to be occupied by that, and then if you wanted solar, it's going to take up this other spot. But the cool hack you can do is say you get 3 expansion batteries. Well, each expansion battery also has 2 ports on it. And that means by the time you get to the last battery, you're going to have one more open port. So you could take one of their really fast solar chargers and plug it into the Power 2000, and then get another one or an alternator charger and plug that into the last battery. All of the batteries in the main unit will work collectively as one ginormous battery pack and will charge equally across all of them. And I met a guy who uses his Power 2000 in his van build. Specifically what he does is photography, as well as helping wild firefighters when they're out in the mountains trying to combat wildfires. Instead of having to lug around a small Honda gas generator and worry about carrying gas, running out of fuel, changing the oil, he just uses his Power 2000 to run everything, and then uses it with an alternator charger or his solar charger because he has both options. That way, regardless of the situation, he knows he can get a charge. So that's kind of the cool factor of DJI is you're able to customize it to whatever needs you have. And the beauty of the DJI 1000 V2 over the V1 is that the V2 now has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, just like the Power 2000 does. That's not included with the Power 500. This is just a simple basic unit that you don't have to worry about connecting to your app. But the Power 1000, you had to do a special connection with your computer, download an app, and do all sorts of updates that way. Now it's a lot simpler. You just connect this to your phone, to the DJI app, and you can do all of the updates over your phone wirelessly without having to worry about connecting to your computer. One of the coolest features about the Power 2000 and the Power 1000 V2 is that they each have two 140-watt USB-C ports. These are not very common on solar generators. Usually you'll get 100-watt and 65-watt USB-C chargers. So if you're using a MacBook or anything Apple, it's going to be able to charge off of this quickly. I personally don't use a DJI drone. I opted to go with the Skydio 2 Plus because of its capability to avoid obstacles and follow me and track everything that I'm doing. And I have a dual battery charger with that where I can charge each battery at 65 watts or a single battery at 100 watts. So now that I have a 140-watt USB-C port, I can charge both batteries quite quickly. And since I run a total of 3 batteries, I can basically have one up in the air doing whatever I need and be rotating my batteries and fly my drone all day long if I want. Besides there not being any direct solar input on any of their units, the other gripe that I have is the user manual. The paperwork that comes with each one of these systems is very minimal and is really not designed to take you through all of the steps and specs of each one of these units. What it does include is a QR code in order to find all of that information online, which is fine, so don't expect to get a lot of information from the user manual that they send with the units. The Power 2000 does have a TT30 RV plug, and it's rated to 25 amps output, which is really impressive, but honestly, this is a little small to run a full RV unless you add the expansion batteries and the solar input. Unless you're choosing to not run the air conditioner, and especially if you're running the fridge on propane, in that scenario, this would definitely be a good option. And the Power 1000 V2 would definitely be a good option for overlanding. If you're camping in your van or camping in your truck, that's going to be a lot smaller and more portable and give you the basic power you need for running a DC fridge, because you can also get a cigarette lighter port adapter for this. And then you can run basic things like a coffee pot and a microwave and whatever electronics you want to run. One thing that I highly recommend for people who overland who want heat is I recommend an electric blanket over a space heater. A very small space heater that's meant for like a desk will generally use between 150 and 200 watts, but a normal twin-size electric blanket for heat will keep you very warm all night, and they only use an average between 35 and 50 watts. So you can save more than 75% of the energy compared to using a small space heater for all of the area inside compared to just having an electric blanket. I honestly think that's a much better way to go if you're camping in your vehicle and you want some extra heat. That's going to allow you to run so much longer off of a battery like this or the Power 1000 or even the Power 500. It's not necessarily always about getting a bigger system, but also just being more efficient with what you're using. The DJI is doing a Black Friday sale. So if you want to see what kind of discounts they're giving for Black Friday, I'll have that in the description down below, as well as any links to coupon codes so you can save as much money as possible. And I do have to say, these systems not only look nice, but are extremely robust. They can take a beating. If you watch my video on the Power 2000, I actually stood on top of this and jumped up and down on top of it, and it had zero issues holding my weight, jumping up and down on top of it. And one thing that's actually really nice is all of their connections on all of their units are on one side of the unit. It's pretty common on solar generators that you'll have an AC charging plug on one side and then your outlets on another and then the screen on another. And that only works if you have free space on 3 sides of the unit. But DJI has factored that into their use case because they want to be able to use it in tight spaces with overlanding for home backup for your fridge and your freezer and your Wi-Fi. These also have really fast UPSs, so if you need to use this for backup power, it'll immediately switch over once grid power goes out. And these systems are surprisingly affordable for what you're getting. I just wish that they had solar built into all of their units already. That's really my biggest gripe. But it's also cool to be able to customize the system. If you want to see how these units compare to others on the market, check out my free solar generator comparison chart. Again, that'll be in the description down below. Then you can get an apples-to-apples comparison of how these work against other units on the market.